All right, Team 82, you ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is KD from KDRF Sports TV. And when I tell you I have a special guest, I really mean this. I've only been knowing this person since the 4th grade. His name is Jimmy Smith. Yeah, him. Played for Jackson State. From Jackson, Mississippi. We went to school together. And I'm sure he's going to say his favorite line about what we did in the 4th and 5th grade. But I want to let you know he's a very big icon. And he played and got drafted to the team that I love so much, the Dallas Cowboys. And he has 2 Super Bowl rings. He made his biggest mark when he got with Jacksonville. Unstoppable. And now it's really time for him to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. He is in the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame, by the way. But I would like to introduce to you Jimmy Smith, Team 82.
Thanks for having me on.
You know, Jimmy, we've talked about football and all that kind of stuff. I would like to know, with your travels from, remember when we were in high school together in Callaway, and then you got to Jackson State. I really didn't remember that you didn't even start your first 2 years.
Jackson State?
Yeah. Or did you?
No. So, but I was a top 40. Back then it was W.C. Gordon days, and that's when the program was, amongst the top in the state, comparable to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and USM. Probably better. I mean, we were putting athletes were getting drafted every year. We were competing in as far as recruiting the top athletes in the state and surrounding areas. So I was a top 40 recruit, a dandy dozen, All-American coming out of high school at Callaway High. And I chose to go to Jackson State, which probably, I doubt if it shocked anyone because my parents went to Jackson State. And my dad played football there also, so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And, my freshman year, I was the last one to get redshirted. We were winning the SWAC every year, leading the nation in attendance. So we were, a lot of talent on our team. So I got redshirted, came back the following year, my redshirt freshman year. And I scored my first touchdown on national TV, our first national televised game in Circle City Classic against Florida A&M. And ironically, it was on the best cover guide in their conference, the MEAC at the time. And so I was able to play a lot my redshirt freshman year, come back my sophomore year. So we had a talented receiving corps. We had Ron Lewis, who holds many records at Jackson State. He went on to play with the Raiders. I think he tried out for them for 1 year. And then Tim Barnett, who ended up playing on the other side of me, was drafted the year before I was to the Kansas City Chiefs in the 3rd round. So there was so much talent on that team when I was there, more talent than Division one schools, Power 5 schools. So my junior year is when I went to the North Carolina after Rob Lewis had left. I went to the Oakland Raiders at the time, and my junior year was my breakout year, and with Tim on the side, he was a senior, I was a junior. We were at the end of that year, we were number 1 in the nation as far as passing offense in Division I AA. If you include Division 1A Power 5 schools, we were ranked 2nd behind the University of Miami. And you know about the the product that they put out. So we had a lot of scouts coming to our practices. And my junior year, the highlight of that year is when we played Southern down in Baton Rouge. And they had a corner named Aeneas Williams, who is now an NFL Hall of Famer. And Aeneas, I always had good games against Aeneas, but I scored 3 touchdowns against Aeneas. I ended up with 4 catches, 181 yards, just in the first half in that game to Southern. And a lot of people around the area still remember that historical performance that I was able to put on against one of the top corners. I remember when my agent, when I signed with my agent, the reason I signed with my agent because he had done so well with Tim Barnett the year before. My agent was telling me a story that they were coming to the games and all the scouts, and the buzz was they wanted to see Tim Barnett and Aeneas Williams go against each other that year. And here I am having a breakout season with the 4 catches for 181 yards. So, my agent was like, Tim, who is this other guy that's playing on the other side of you? He's killing us because the scouts are coming to see you go against Aeneas, and this other guy is lighting Aeneas up. And, fortunately, I was able to, one thing after that junior year, I caught 42 catches for shy of 1,000 yards. I consider coming out my junior year because I didn't have a quarterback. My quarterback was leaving. Sean Greger was leaving the year before my senior year. So I contemplated on that, but I ended up staying my senior year. And knowing that I was going to get a lot of attention and a lot of double teams, they switched me to flanker, and I played off the ball, and I was in motion a lot, going across the ball and playing within the zone between the linebackers. So I was able to do that, and which was good because that made I was a versatile receiver. I can play the slot and I can play the outside receiver. So I was pretty versatile, and that improved my draft stock. My senior year, I caught 43 balls in shy of 1,000 also, and I got invited to the Senior Bowl and the Hula Bowl and the Blue Gray. I declined most of the bowl games and just played in the Senior Bowl because that was the most important bowl game to play in. I was a starter in the Senior Bowl, and I remember going to practices, how a lot of guys, I wanted to see how I was going to fare against those guys from the Power 5, and scouts and coaches wanted to see how I was going to fare against those guys. So there were guys from Notre Dame, there was Dale Carter from Tennessee, who was a first rounder, guys from USC, UCF, Texas, I mean, all the big schools. And, I went in there, and during the week of practices, I was catching the balls and turning upfield and running all the way to the end zone like I was scoring, and guys were looking at me like I was crazy. They was like, man, you ain't got to run all the way to the end zone. You're making us look bad. I'm like, that's what I'm supposed to do. Because none of the other receivers were doing it. They would catch the ball and run like 5 yards and come back to the huddle. Well, I knew that I was, coming from a small school, it was against all odds, that I had to do everything in my power to make an impression on the NFL. So I think that extra work that I was putting in at the Senior Bowl really improved my draft status on top of going to the combine and running a 4.5 flat. I was projected to run a 4.4, but everybody knows that it's a slow turf, so I ran a 4.5. So that was okay. It didn't hurt me. So next was my pro day, in which I ran back-to-back 4.30s, 4.3 flats. The first time I can remember running that 4.3 flat. And keep in mind, we didn't have the best practice fields. So it was just almost like running in a pasture. It wasn't no turf or anything. So, and it rained the day before, so it was kind of wet. So the scouts, when I ran that first 40 at a 4.3 flat, the scouts couldn't believe it. They had me run again. I was like, man, this ain't cool. Because they didn't believe that I could run that, that my time was that good on that surface. And lo and behold, usually when you run your second 40, you don't run as fast as your first 40, but I came back and ran just as fast. I ran another 4.3 flat. I ran back-to-back 4.3 flats. And, the rest is history after that. I didn't have to do anything else but just wait on the draft. So I was projected to go first round, 25th pick to the Denver Broncos. That year, Denver decided to take Tommy Maddox out of UCLA, and I failed in the draft. Well, I wouldn't say I failed. That's just the way the draft went. And I ended up going to the Dallas Cowboys amidst the Herschel Walker trade when the Cowboys traded Herschel Walker and got all those picks for those 2 years. So I was a part of the Herschel Walker trade, and I was very surprised that Dallas drafted me because, they had Alvin Harper, who was a first rounder from Tennessee the year before, and of course they had Michael Irvin. So I remember, in practice one day in Dallas, I asked one of the scouts, like, why'd y'all draft me? Because I got Alvin Harper, you got Michael Irvin, there's no need for me. And the scout told me something that I always remember. He's like, we're always looking to get better. And that really motivated me because what they were saying is they're looking for me to be better than Michael Irvin. And, I started working harder, and I knew I couldn't break the lineup because I wasn't going to play in front of Mike. So, but I was putting a lot of pressure on Mike. I caught every ball in camp, and and KD, you was there in Austin in one of our training camps. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Hey, let me ask you this. Let me say this. You said a couple of times that you were shy of 1,000 yards, but for people that don't understand Jackson State football, during W.C. Gordon's tenure, we were a running school.
Yeah, we were known as a running offense.
We ran the ball.
Yeah.
So to get 800 and some yards, that's like really getting 1,300 because we ran way more than passed the ball.
Yeah, we recruited a lot of running backs at Jackson State. Everybody remembers Lewis Tillman. He was there up until my sophomore year. But the fact that, we were a run-first offense and basically a run-dominant team for us to, in my junior year to lead the nation in passing and not, in Division I AA and to be ranked number 2 out of all of college sports was very impressive considering that we ran the ball first. That goes to show you the precision that we had in our passing game. back then. You know, I was shy of 1,000 2 years in a row, and the main thing is that I was consistent. I had 42 balls my junior year and 43 balls my senior year. So,
and you made the All-Century team.
Later on, I was made the All-Century team, and then a few years after that, I was inducted to the JSU Hall of Fame. And this past year, I got a call. Last October, I got a call from Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame announcing and letting me know that I will be inducted coming up this August into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame.
You know what, Jimmy? Well, to those of you, I rarely call Jimmy. I call him Jimbo. I don't know where
calling me Jimbo all my life.
I've just been calling him that because, as he will tell you, he always says it when I introduce him to somebody. It's my dude. He threw my first touchdown pass.
You don't let people know. You know, when people look at my career, and when I say this is a guy who threw me my first touchdown pass ever in life, and I take great pride in that, KD. I don't know if you do.
I do. Nobody, people don't know the friendship that we actually have. We don't get a chance to talk all the time because he is an entrepreneur. But when we talk, we chop it up like we just talked.
Yeah.
And Jimmy has gone through a lot of things in life, especially when that appendectomy situation. But, I was at the crib checking on him. Hey, man, you all right? And then...
No.
You remember that?
Like, no, I'm not all right.
He was like, no, man, I'm hurt. What you mean? I'm hurt. But
and I didn't spend all my Super Bowl money, and I may not play football again. So,
yeah.
It took... I didn't want to come back to Mississippi because, I know I had the whole, city. I didn't want to go out. I was like, kind of embarrassed to be out in public. I didn't want to hear people like, man, what happened? Why you ain't playing? Why? We saw you on ESPN with Chris Mortensen. We see, are you gonna play again? I didn't want to, I just didn't want to surface, so I stayed in hiding, recovering.
Yep. And he recovered, y'all. And then all of a sudden, expansion football.
Well, before then, it was
Philadelphia.
I was with Dallas, and the whole Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones feud was widely known. And when Barry Switzer came in, Barry Switzer inherited a dynasty. We had, you look at my career, I'm a Hall of Fame receiver, and I hadn't even hit the field yet in Dallas. So, and drafted right behind me, I was a 36th pick of the 92 draft. Darren Woodson was the 37th pick in the 92 draft. And he's Hall of Fame talent. He's nominated. He's up for the Hall of Fame also. So, the Dallas Cowboys was so loaded, we could have developed a second team unit and probably still been, I'm not going to say as successful, but pretty damn competitive.
So all right, much has been speculated, like you just said, about Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. And what I'm saying is, Jerry Jones, and even now today, he won't just be an owner. He want to be so involved. I believe if Jimmy Johnson was still there, y'all would have won 5 or 6 Super Bowls.
And still winning.
I really believe that because just look at the people that he drafted. He didn't always go after the top tier. He went after people that he saw, and the recruiting people saw, oh, that person's going to be off the chain.
A dog. He got all dogs.
Yeah. And
all dogs. He went and got them. And, that Herschel Walker trade, when you get 30 picks for 2 years, you got 30 picks. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of Christmas. That's a lot of Christmas presents on Christmas Day.
Yes.
They used to call us Christmas presents when we was walking around the facility. And all of us, like I said, man, we were so loaded, man. There were a bunch of guys, that. And we had a guy named Clayton Holmes out of East Carolina. I mean, this guy was like a gazelle. He ran like a 4.27. We had Alexander Wright that played receiver out of Auburn. He ran a 4.19. I mean, we had some super talent out there. And it wasn't enough balls to go around. It wasn't. I don't think, if I would have stayed in Dallas, I don't think I would have had. Well, I can't say that because I was determined to I didn't have to do the Keyshawn Johnson and scream on the sideline, give me the damn ball, because I knew at some point in the game, like Deion Sanders said, I didn't talk a lot of noise, because my game was so loud. My game was so loud, I knew that they would eventually have to throw me that damn football at some point in the game. Because
I'm glad you brought that name up.
Yep.
Deion Sanders.
Yeah, they were asking Deion Sanders, who were a lot of trash talkers, who were some of the trash talker receivers that he faced, and they asked him about me. And he's like, no, Jimmy Smith, he don't have to say nothing. He don't have to talk trash because his game is so loud. When your game is loud, you don't have to say nothing.
How was the plan? Because see, I have some other questions as a receiver, but then as a receiver playing against some of the top corners. How was it playing against him?
Yeah, he's in a category of his own when you ask me about playing against the top corners I face. All the top corners that I faced, Ty Law, Champ Bailey, Dale Carter, Sam Madison. You can look on my highlight. You can YouTube my highlight film, and there's about 3 of them, and you're going to see Otis Smith. You're going to see all of them getting beat for touchdowns. But you're not going to see Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. You're not going to see me beating him for no touchdown because of his football IQ on top of his God-given ability, which was amazing. I was... I'm gonna tell you, when I first playing with the Jaguars, when we went and played Dallas, going against Deion Sanders, I was starstruck. I was starstruck for the first. I was just like, man, this is him. Like Allen Iverson talks about Michael Jordan with an aura. I was looking at Deion Sanders lining up on me. On one, putting one leg up, one leg back. I'm looking at all these different things that he's doing prior to the snap. And I'm like, what route do I run? I don't even, he takes me out the game because I'm so mesmerized by, man, I'm going against Deion Sanders, prime time. And the way he played me was real smart because when he pressed a lot, he was in press coverage, and I used to always get guys because I was the receiver that was in the weight room. A lot of receivers didn't lift weights like I lift, so I was incredibly strong for a receiver. I would take a DB and grab him by the outside shoulder pad and just pull myself around him and stack him, and I'm wide open. So all the quarterback had to do was throw to the outside shoulder. No matter how fast the DB was, no matter how talented, I was able by my physical strength to create leverage and put the DB in my hip pocket, so I would have that deep ball over the outside shoulder. Well, Deion
sideline.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would always save. I would never let a DB squeeze me to the sideline. I would always save 4 yards for the sideline because I had a left-handed quarterback. I lined up on the left side a lot of time, on the left side 70% of the time. So his balls would normally spin out of bounds. So I would have to leave him room for the ball to throw the ball. So I was real skinny in coming off my release on the DB, and I knew DBs couldn't handle that. But Deion was smart. I can tell he studied the film, and he would come and press coverage. But he would, when the ball was snapped, well, he would jump outside and bail, which is called feather. It's called bail technique. He went hard press, and what he was doing was he was putting himself in the receiver spot and putting me in the DB spot in his hip pocket. So he would automatically come out the ball. I got a go route. I got an outside release. Well, he would jump outside and bail on me. So I'm in his hip. So what you got there is me playing DB against Deion Sanders. Now he probably didn't even have to do that because he's super fast. He's superhuman. I've never seen an individual that fast in my life. But we tried to go for a go route a couple of times, and I mean, he actually, when the ball was thrown, he would run past me and almost catch the bomb. And one thing about Deion, he was, as I was running routes against him, I noticed that he gave up the inside by playing that technique. So I could run a slant, I can run a curl route, I can run an end route or a post. I can run those all day. That's what he was willing to give up. But keep in mind, they had this guy named Roy Williams out of Oklahoma, who was a headhunter, and he would knock your head off. So I wasn't too thrilled. Yeah, I wasn't trying to go inside anyway. So it was a good defensive scheme that they had was against me. So that game I only had I caught one ball against Deion, and it was a hit for about 8 yards. And he tackled me 8 yards. And he tackled me, and then the other ball I caught for a touchdown was a slant and out. It was a pivot. It was a slant and then pivot out. I caught that against Kevin Smith on the other side. So I was like, man, y'all gonna have to switch me to the other side so I can get some balls. So we started running our formation to the right side instead of the left, which Deion and Kevin, they didn't really travel. They didn't switch. So I was able to get my second catch. But that's pretty much the one thing. Like I was saying, as I was running my routes against Deion, he would come back. I run a curl route. I run a couple of routes, and he realized my talent. And as we were walking back to the huddle, he would be like, "Are you a Christian? Are you saved?" And I was wondering. I'm like, why is he asking me this? And the reason he was asking me is he told me, he was like, "There's no way that you could be that talented and not be a man of a child of God." Really? Yes. And I'm like, man, I'll never forget that ever. So it was there's a lot of respect there. When he went to the Washington Redskins, I faced him against the Washington Redskins, and they to get me away from Dion, they started putting me in the slot. So I remember catching maybe 2 balls on him in the slot, but and he pressed a lot. And every time they put me in the slot, you know, they had a go route from the slot that I was going to run straight down the middle of the field. And Dion, you know, knowing he knew my strength, which is my strength is going deep and running past it. He would be in the slot, and he was just like, forget the defense. What the defense called, I know what he finna do. He would say that during the game. He would come down and press, and he'd be like, oh, I know what this is, and he would just bag up to like the safe, like 20 yards back. And then that was the end of our play. You know? And these were plays that we had never run before. They were put in especially to get open against them. And here, you know, for us never have run this play or it being on film, to hear this guy say, I know what this is. And to get back, you know, go back to where, almost a safety position, I'm like, man, this guy's his football IQ is second to none.